Where is Malaysia Airlines Flight 370?
There is absolutely no question that he was a qualified, competent pilot.
After 10 years of constant searching and relentless pursuit of truth, a new clue has sparked fresh evidence regarding the infamous Flight MH370. None other than Tucker Carlson was the authority behind this revelation. Even if the global New World Order wants you to stay away from the truth about this case that has baffled aviation experts for over a decade, we are on the brink of finally leading to solving what happened to the plane, a solution that once seemed impossible. Has the latest underwater drone discovery finally pinpointed the watery grave of Malaysian Flight 370? Come witness how cutting-edge technology can resolve one of aviation's most devastating cases, the baffling case of Flight MH370. After 10 years filled with doubt and constant searching, a spark of hope rekindles international interest in the perplexing disappearance of Flight MH370. The deep uncertainty may finally be navigated as a fresh clue surfaces, potentially illuminating the situation that has baffled the aviation world for so long.
Malaysian 370, request level.
370, we are ready, requesting flight level 350 to Beijing.
Despite the years, the emotional wounds remain open, the worldwide fascination unabated, and now a potential major revelation invites those haunted by the aircraft's sudden vanishing to come closer to a resolution that once seemed nearly impossible. Our story begins in the chilly pre-dawn hours of March 8, 2014. Precisely at 12:41 a.m., the substantial Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 was prepared on the tarmac, ready for its scheduled journey from Kuala Lumpur International Airport to Beijing Capital International Airport. This trip through the skies was expected to be brief, a quick 6-hour flight. Though not newly manufactured, the aircraft selected for this flight, a Boeing 777-200ER.
What happens next is...
Has been found.
Who planted there? Who brought the piece there?
Carried a rich history in its 12 years of service. Registered as 9MMRO, this seasoned airplane was captained by Zahari Ahmad Shah, an experienced pilot with 18,365 hours of flying under his belt. Captain Zahari was deeply passionate about flying, often sharing his experiences and affection for aviation on social media. His co-pilot, Fariq Abdul Hamid, was a younger pilot with 2,763 hours of experience. For Fariq, this flight was meant to be a learning experience, but tragically, it turned out to be his last. The cabin crew consisted of 10 attendants, tasked primarily with ensuring the safety and comfort of the 227 passengers on board. The passengers included 5 children and represented a diverse group from across the globe, with 38 from Malaysia and others from countries like Indonesia, Australia, India, France, the United States, Iran, Ukraine, Canada, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Russia, and Taiwan, creating a vibrant microcosm of international culture at 35,000 feet in the air. As the plane lifted off from runway 32R and climbed into the night sky, it checked in with Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control to report that all was proceeding well. However, once MH370 was near Vietnamese airspace, this narrative of normalcy was abruptly cut off. The last communication from the plane came as a standard exchange with Malaysian control. Captain Zahari's last recorded words, "Good night, Malaysian 370, would soon become a chilling marker in the unfolding drama. In a perplexing turn of events, just when MH370 crossed into Vietnamese airspace, it disappeared from radar screens, and its transponder, which broadcast critical data about the aircraft, ceased to function. This sudden loss of signal transformed the plane into an untraceable entity, complicating the desperate efforts to determine its fate. But the plot thickens. Before it disappeared, there were no distress calls or indications of bad weather or mechanical issues. Then around 1:30 a.m., Malaysian radar detected the plane again, but significantly off its expected course. In a surprising maneuver, the aircraft turned around, heading back across the Malay Peninsula. Continuing its baffling journey, MH370 then changed course again, this time heading northwest across the vast Strait of Malacca. The reasons behind these mysterious navigational changes remain unclear. Was this a deliberate diversion by someone in the cockpit, a hijacking, or a response to an unforeseen emergency? During this confusing period, another pilot attempted to establish communication with MH370, acting on a request from Vietnamese air traffic control. However, this attempt only added to the mystery, as the response was nothing but muffled noises and static. No clear communication was established, only an eerie silence that seemed to echo the growing despair of those searching for the plane. As years have passed, the quest to understand what happened to Flight MH370 has become a complex saga filled with various theories and widespread speculation. Ideas range from sophisticated hijackings and catastrophic mechanical failures to more sinister and outlandish scenarios. Yet for those left waiting for their loved ones, the pain remains acute, their yearning for closure a constant presence. Dive deeper into the search and the strange clues that surfaced. Eyewitness reports of a phantom flight. Malaysia Airlines was immediately cloaked in concern, initiating a frantic search for the missing aircraft. The airline reached out to every possible source of help. Other air traffic control centers, pilots in the sky at that moment, anyone who might have even the slightest piece of information or clue about the whereabouts of Flight 370. By the time dawn broke at 5:30 a.m., the search had escalated significantly, focusing sharply on the aircraft's last known locations, the South China Sea and the Gulf of Thailand. There was an intense, coordinated push to solve the airplane's mysterious disappearance. As the plane's absence from radar began dominating headlines, numerous individuals stepped forward claiming to have seen the aircraft. By March 19, 2014, a diverse array of eyewitnesses, including fishermen, oil rig workers, and residents of remote areas like the Kuta Huadu Atoll and the Maldives, reported sightings of an aircraft that resembled Flight 370. These accounts varied in detail. Notably, a fisherman near Kotabaru described witnessing an airplane flying alarmingly low over the coast, a sight both unusual and disturbing. In a chilling development far to the southeast, approximately 1,863 miles from a location known as Wong, an oil rig worker experienced a startling event early one morning. Flames erupting in the sky, a sight that spurred immediate action from the Vietnamese authorities. They launched a search and rescue operation to investigate this terrifying observation. Adding to the complexity, Indonesian fishermen reported seeing an airplane plummet near the Malacca Straits, contributing yet another layer of perplexity and alarm to the already convoluted case of Flight 370. The scenario became even more surreal when, 3 months after the plane's initial disappearance, a British woman sailing the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean came forward. She claimed to have seen a plane engulfed in flames, joining a growing list of eerie, unexplained sightings. Each of these disparate accounts, while different, collectively painted a picture of a bizarre and tragic event, accumulating more questions than answers about what truly transpired with the aircraft and its occupants. The search efforts, initially focused on the South China Sea, where the plane was last supposed to be, faced a dramatic shift. New data emerged, revealing that Flight 370 had deviated significantly from its intended route, now heading west instead of continuing north. This unexpected twist expanded the search areas to include the Strait of Malacca and the deeper, more enigmatic waters of the Andaman Sea. As the puzzle continued to unfold, perplexing signals sent from the missing aircraft to a satellite surfaced. These signals were not straightforward communications, but rather cryptic, intermittent beacons, hinting that the aircraft remained airborne long after it vanished from radar. This revelation jolted the global community and further fueled the speculative fires surrounding the circumstances of the disappearance. The burgeoning intricacies of the investigation and the ever-expanding search areas only deepened the puzzle. Theories swirled, ranging from pilot malfeasance, catastrophic system failures, to more nefarious scenarios involving hijacking or covert military operations. Each new piece of data seemed to weave an increasingly complex narrative, challenging even the most seasoned aviation experts and investigators who struggled to piece together the aircraft's final hours. The continued search for MH370, driven by both hope and a relentless pursuit of the truth, underscores not only the vast capabilities of modern technology, but also its limitations. Get ready to dive into the silent hours and satellite clues that reveal more about the vanished Flight MH370, the final moments in the Indian Ocean. For 6 hours, Flight MH370 maneuvered silently under the radar, effectively invisible to the eyes of the world, leaving its movements during that time completely shrouded in ambiguity. This gap in knowledge set the stage for a crucial update on March 15th, a full week after the aircraft's puzzling disappearance. At this juncture, a satellite telecommunications company named Inmarsat stepped forward with data that promised answers, yet yielded more questions. They couldn't provide the exact location of the plane, but offered 2 potential trajectories. One possibility was that the aircraft had plunged south into the isolated depths of the Indian Ocean, southwest of Australia. The other was a northern path stretching from Vietnam to Turkmenistan. This information prompted search coordinators to reevaluate their efforts. Their initial searches in the South China Sea and the Gulf of Thailand had been in vain, like searching for lost treasures in the wrong castle. With new potential paths laid out by Inmarsat, the focus of the search shifted. However, the suggestion that the plane could have traveled north, undetected over countries equipped with sophisticated military radar systems, such as Thailand and Kazakhstan, quickly fell out of favor. The confidence of these nations in their radar systems made the northern route seem implausible, reducing it to little more than a fleeting consideration in the ongoing investigation. Once the northern route was deemed unlikely, the search area expanded dramatically, splitting into 2 main zones. The first, known as the Southern Arc, extended into the remote and vast waters of the Indian Ocean, a formidable expanse located far southwest of Australia. The second zone covered a massive area encompassing parts of Southeast Asia, regions of Western China, and the Indian subcontinent. The expansion of the search areas added layers of complexity to an already intricate situation, stretching resources and challenging the resolve of those involved. The narrative took a somber turn on March 24, 2014, when Najib Razak, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, delivered heart-rending news. After a detailed analysis of the last communications with Flight 370, assisted by the expertise of Inmarsat and the UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch, officials concluded that the aircraft's final moments were over the southern Indian Ocean. Given the vast, uninhabitable nature of this area, devoid of any islands or landing spots, the only conceivable outcome was a tragic descent into the ocean's abyss. This led to the painful admission that the plane, along with all 239 individuals on board, likely met a catastrophic fate at sea. This moment was one of the most devastating in the history of aviation involving a Boeing 777. This dark record held for only 131 days until an even more tragic event occurred. On July 17, 2014, another Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777-200ER Flight 17 was brought down, claiming 298 lives and overshadowing the previous disaster in terms of loss of life. As the investigation progressed, it morphed into the most costly search operation in aviation history, marked by extreme challenges and driven by a faint glimmer of hope. The target area was particularly daunting due to its remoteness, which complicated search efforts. On April 6, 2014, hope flickered briefly when an Australian ship detected what was believed to be signals from the plane's black box, approximately 1,240 miles northwest of Perth, Australia. These signals were consistent with the location data provided by Inmarsat, lending a semblance of credibility to the potential discovery. However, there was a looming concern that the black box's battery might expire soon, which would cease its ability to emit signals, thus silencing a crucial source of information about the plane's final moments. In an effort to follow this lead, a robotic submarine was deployed to scour the ocean floor across a wide area where the signals had been detected. Despite extensive and prolonged search efforts, the submarine failed to locate any wreckage of the missing plane. This led to speculation that the detected signals might have been a false alarm, possibly caused by interference from the submarine's own equipment. Nonetheless, the teams involved in the search remained steadfast in their mission, driven by hope, a sense of duty, and an unyielding desire to uncover what truly happened to Flight MH370. This protracted search, filled with twists and turns, has not only tested the limits of human technology and determination, but has also highlighted the profound mysteries that our planet still holds. The disappearance of Flight MH370 has become a poignant reminder of the uncertainties in our understanding of both aviation and the vast, uncharted expanses of our oceans. It serves as a stark illustration of the persistence and resilience required in the face of overwhelming odds and the relentless pursuit of truth that defines our human spirit in the quest to solve this baffling disappearance. Let's explore who was on the plane and why they might have been there as we untangle this complex mystery, the short-lived suspect. It started with a seemingly simple revelation that the two passengers under scrutiny were actually young men from Iran, 19-year-old and 29-year-old. They had entered Malaysia legally, bearing their genuine Iranian passports toward the end of February, with apparent intentions of seeking refuge, potentially to live safely away from their country's conflicts. This notion led to speculation that they were possibly fleeing to another nation for asylum, not engaging in anything sinister. Ronald K. Noble, then Secretary General of Interpol, even hinted that their actions likely had nothing to do with terrorism, which added layers to the unfolding situation. As the investigation into the vanished airplane deepened, teams from the United States and Malaysia undertook a thorough examination of every individual who was on board. Their pasts were scrutinized with relentless detail, aiming to uncover any link to violent actions or terror-related activities. Concurrently, the Chinese government was conducting its own in-depth checks on its citizens aboard. In the end, all parties involved concurred. A lack of evidence suggested that none of the passengers had ties to acts of violence or terrorism. During this exhaustive search, attention briefly shifted to a flight engineer who was employed by a company in Switzerland that leased jets. His professional background in aviation made him a temporary focus of the investigation. However, his involvement as a suspect was short-lived and ultimately unverified. Within this frantic search for clarity, a wild conjecture surfaced. Some theorized that Russian agents had hijacked the aircraft, deliberately crashing it in a desolate part of Kazakhstan. This bold theory suggested that the motive was to divert global attention from Russia's controversial activities in Crimea. This narrative, filled with espionage and covert maneuvers, seemed like it was lifted directly from a Cold War-era film, yet it was devoid of any concrete proof. As the complexity of the situation grew, another unusual detail caught the public's eye. There were reports that the cell phones of those aboard were still ringing, sparking a torturous hope among the distraught families that their loved ones might still be found. The ongoing ringing gave the impression that the devices were operational, intensifying the anguish of relatives desperate for any sign of survival. However, this sliver of hope was extinguished by experts in telecommunications, who explained that the ringing was simply the network's attempt to locate the phones, not a sign that the calls were connecting. Although this explanation was based in technical fact, it offered little comfort to the grieving families, leaving them mired in sorrow and confusion. What is unequivocally known is that the aircraft was flying over the Gulf of Thailand when, for reasons unknown, it abruptly changed course. It reversed direction, soaring over both bustling urban centers and quiet rural communities. Then silence ensued. In today's world, dominated by constant digital communication, the complete absence of any messages, calls, or digital traces from those on board after the aircraft altered its course was deeply troubling. This silence was as disturbing as it was puzzling, magnifying the intrigue surrounding the fate of the airplane. The passengers, whether traveling for leisure, business, or seeking new beginnings in distant lands, had suddenly become silent voyagers aboard a missing flight. Their absence of digital communication only served to amplify the chilling nature of their predicament, casting a pall over their existence and the profound loss experienced by those who cared for them. Thus, the tale of MH370 is not just about a missing airplane. It is a saga of human lives disrupted, an illustration of our fragility despite the advancements in technology, and a poignant reminder of the lasting agony of not knowing. It challenges our understanding, delves into the depths of human anxiety, and highlights the dramatic impact of an unresolved tragedy. Explore the silence of Flight MH370, where unanswered questions fuel endless theories. The unanswered calls that never came through. The silence that surrounded Flight MH370 after it disappeared led to extensive discussions and plenty of theories from both hobbyists and experts in the field. With many passengers hailing from Malaysia and China, regions known for their constant use of smartphones, the inability to establish any communication during the flight raised serious questions. Was it simply a technical failure, or was something more troubling at play? One possible explanation is that the aircraft reached altitudes beyond the reach of cell tower signals, making communication impossible. It's conceivable that the passengers did try to reach out, but their attempts were in vain due to the high altitude. These hypotheses add to an already intricate scenario, driving further speculation about the events that occurred during the flight. As weeks and months passed, the unresolved disappearance of Flight MH370 captivated global attention and remained at the forefront of media coverage. The Boeing 777, operated by Malaysia Airlines, was traveling from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing when it mysteriously deviated from its intended route. This incident brought forward numerous theories and sparked widespread investigations to determine what happened on that March day in 2014. The aircraft carried 227 passengers and 12 crew members from 14 different countries, each of whom became the subject of international concern and speculation. The unexpected detour taken by Flight MH370, under the control of Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah and co-pilot Farik Abdul Hamid, puzzled experts and investigators alike. Military radar data revealed that after altering its course, the plane exhibited highly unusual behavior, notably in its altitude changes. Initially, the aircraft soared to a perilous 45,000 feet, well above the normal cruising altitude range of 33,000 to 42,000 feet for commercial jets. Reaching such a high altitude is fraught with risks. At 45,000 feet, the air is exceedingly thin, posing a significant risk of hypoxia, which can deprive the body of necessary oxygen. Additionally, commercial aircraft are generally not engineered to withstand the conditions at such extreme altitudes, which could compromise the plane's structural integrity and onboard systems. After reaching this extreme altitude, Flight MH370 then sharply descended to approximately 23,000 feet, a level more typical for commercial flights, but still peculiar considering its prior extreme ascent. The aircraft then ascended again, this time to 29,500 feet. These unusual altitude variations suggested to some observers that there might have been either a mechanical issue or possibly deliberate manipulation of the aircraft's controls within the cockpit. The altitude shifts had more than just mechanical implications. They severely disrupted the operation of any mobile devices on the aircraft. The rapid climb to 45,000 feet likely led to a loss of connectivity with ground cell towers, thereby interrupting any efforts to make calls or send messages. This situation would have effectively isolated the passengers, cutting off all communication with the outside world and potentially leading to a highly stressful situation for everyone on board. Adding complexity to the situation, the aircraft's transponder, which communicates the plane's position to ground radar, was reportedly switched off or malfunctioned around the time the flight path was altered. This breakdown further complicated tracking efforts and deepened the intrigue surrounding the aircraft's location and what might have transpired aboard. With a non-functional transponder, only secondary radar systems, which cover broader and less precise areas, could track the aircraft. Adding to the intricate situation, the aircraft's transponder, a crucial device for transmitting the aircraft's position and other data to ground radar systems, reportedly ceased to function or was manually turned off around the time Flight MH370 deviated from its intended course. This complication severely hindered tracking efforts and deepened concerns over the whereabouts of the aircraft. In the absence of a working transponder, The only way to track the aircraft was through secondary radar, which provides a broader, less precise visual of an aircraft's location. As both search teams and investigative units worked tirelessly to reconstruct the aircraft's route, the absence of clear communication from the plane and its unusual altitude fluctuations spurred a multitude of hypotheses. Some theories suggested that the pilot, or perhaps another individual on board, deliberately commandeered the aircraft, potentially as a dire act of terrorism or as a personal suicide mission. Other theories posited that a significant mechanical breakdown or an unexpected onboard calamity might have disabled the crew and passengers. Globally, efforts to locate the missing aircraft intensified, with search teams meticulously combing vast expanses of the Indian Ocean and surrounding areas. They relied heavily on satellite data and the analysis of ocean currents to narrow down potential search zones. Despite the extensive geographical scope and the limited availability of physical evidence, the quest to uncover any debris that might reveal more about the plane's final moments continued for years, often yielding little to no results. Throughout this protracted period, the families of those aboard MH370 endured excruciating uncertainty, clinging desperately to each new piece of information and maintaining hope under increasingly bleak circumstances. The global aviation community also paid close attention, recognizing that the disappearance of MH370 underscored the urgent need for enhancements in the way aircraft are tracked and in the protocols for responding to aviation emergencies. Years passed with continuous search operations and ongoing speculation, yet many questions about Flight MH370 persisted. Debates and theories about possible scenarios ranged from a pilot-led suicide to a hijacking, from a catastrophic technical failure to a deliberate act of vanishing orchestrated by unknown forces. In response to the unexplained route alteration, investigators in the United States pondered the unsettling notion that someone inside the cockpit might have intentionally directed the aircraft towards the Indian Ocean. To explore this theory further, Malaysian authorities conducted thorough examinations of the pilots' backgrounds, scrutinizing their residences and delving into their financial activities, such as bank and credit card statements, in search of any motives or unusual behaviors. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, who had accumulated over 18,000 hours of flight experience, was frequently described by his relatives and colleagues as financially secure and mentally stable, which complicated theories of his potential involvement in any deliberate misdeed. However, some reports suggested that Zahari was grappling with personal issues, such as marital problems, that could have impacted his mental state. Additional intrigue arose from the analysis of Zahari's home flight simulator. Investigators found that he had deleted files that simulated a route closely resembling the one believed to have been taken by MH370 toward the southern Indian Ocean. Although this discovery was suspicious, officials later stated that it merely indicated a possibility and did not constitute definitive proof of his intentions. Moreover, debris from the crash, discovered washed up on distant shores years later, offered some clues but also left much open for interpretation. For example, the analysis of the wreckage suggested that the plane impacted the water at high speed, which could suggest a lack of preparation for a controlled landing, possibly pointing to intentional actions. Despite these findings, the true motivations and actions of Captain Zahari remain obscured by uncertainty. Official investigations have not conclusively resolved his role, if any, in the tragedy. Zahari's complex profile, a dedicated and seasoned pilot who may have faced personal difficulties, exemplifies the challenges in conclusively determining his involvement in the disappearance of Flight MH370. Captain Zahari was a family man, residing peacefully in his community and owning 2 properties. Notably, his flight simulator at home, which he used regularly, had stored a deleted flight path that strikingly mirrored the suspected route of MH370, ending near a remote island in the Southern Ocean. Dive into Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah's life and the ongoing mystery of MH370. Co-pilot Fareeq's last attempt to communicate over Malaysia. The scrutiny on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah intensified as rumors about his personal difficulties became public. Reports suggested a marital separation and the emotional stress of his relative, Anwar Ibrahim, facing a 5-year imprisonment just before the tragic flight. These issues suggested Zahari might have been under considerable emotional distress. Nevertheless, Zahari's wife disputed these allegations vigorously, and his relatives and friends were quick to defend his integrity and dedication to his family and profession, strongly denying any possibility that he could be involved in deliberately causing the flight's disappearance. The investigation then deepened as Kuala Lumpur police, in collaboration with the FBI, thoroughly examined the data from Zahari's flight simulator at his home. Despite meticulous examination, investigators found no concrete evidence linking him to any planned wrongdoing related to the disappearance of Flight 370. This absence of evidence shifted investigative focus towards the co-pilot, Fariq Abdul Hamid, who became the center of another unfolding subplot. A significant piece of evidence came to light with the discovery that Fariq had tried to make a phone call from the cockpit as the aircraft was flying low over the Malaysian coastline. This call to a tower in Penang State was abruptly disconnected, likely because the aircraft moved out of the tower's signal range too quickly. The specifics of this call were kept confidential, sparking widespread speculation and conspiracy theories about whom he was trying to contact and why. Some theorize that Fariq, possibly dealing with his own personal challenges, might have isolated himself in the cockpit, shutting down the plane's communication systems in a moment of despair. This swirl of speculation painted a dark, dramatic backdrop to the disappearance of Flight 370, with theories of betrayal and tragedy that seemed more fitting for a novel. There were whispers about Fariq's troubled personal life, especially his romantic relationships, which some suggested were so burdensome that he might have seen the flight's tragic end as a way out of his problems. This depiction of a man on the brink of desperation was tragic and stirred intense public and media sympathy. However, it's important to balance these somber theories with the realities of Fariq's life that tell a different story. Contrary to the image of a man seeking a way to escape his turmoil, Fariq Abdul Hamid was actually deeply engaged to Captain Nadira Ramli, a pilot from another airline, and was reportedly very happy in his personal life. This relationship was often described as a major source of joy and emotional support for him, casting doubt on the theories of his desperation. Fariq was also a passionate aviator. His dedication to flying was well recognized among his peers, and he regarded his career as a vocation, not just a job. His deep commitment to aviation and his impending marriage suggest a man looking forward to life, not someone planning to end it dramatically. These contrasting perspectives of Fariq's life illustrate the complexity of human behavior and caution against rushing to judgment based on incomplete information. They urge a more thoughtful and thorough examination of all factors surrounding Flight MH370's mysterious disappearance. This approach honors the nuanced and multifaceted nature of human emotions and behaviors, acknowledging that the full truth may be layered and complex, requiring patient and meticulous investigation to uncover. Could Captain Zahari or Fariq Abdul Hamid have orchestrated the disappearance of Flight MH370? Or is there another explanation? Like, comment, and subscribe for more discussions and updates on this topic.